Did you hear anything in there that convinces you?
You asked Dan what I meant by woo-woo. That is the very embodiment of woo-woo. He said, stringing together at a rapid patter of a bunch of scientific sounding words sprinkled in with some spiritual New Age words doesn't mean anything.
I hope that
hang on,
scientists
Deepak.
here in this audience.
Yes. And by the way, scientists are not jihadists here. This is Caltech. We're not jihadists. That was really very unspiritual of you, very un-Deepak of you to say that.
Well, you bring out the West in me.
Maybe you need to meditate a little bit there. I mean, just take one example of this. Non-local quantum effects were all connected. No, this is not true. When quantum physicists talk about non-locality and the interconnectedness of things, they're talking about things at the quantum level.
Wait, well, let me just stop you for a second, because I will play the dummy tonight, because it's not a hard role for me to assume. What does non-local mean? I mean, I kind of understand what quantum physics means, but just give it to me really simply.
Okay. There's this very simple two-slit experiment where you fire these photons through, and if you just have two streams of light, they form a little interference wave pattern, like throwing two rocks in a pond.
You've already confused.
Okay, and so it. Yeah, you want to?
He's getting into the woo-woo now.
No, this is just you. Okay, what he means by
guys with woo-woo.
What he means by non-local. What he means by non-local is that everything in the universe is interconnected, and it just is not true. It just isn't.
And there's no reason to think that it's active at the level of the brain. That non-locality is a principle that is working. Hold on, Deepak, you spoke for quite some time. The deeper point to make here, and what is...
But I want to address that brain thing that you just said.
Okay, let's finish.
You might not have to, because the deeper point here, and this is where the whole style and content of what you're saying is so deeply unscientific, is that there's not a physicist sitting on this stage right now. Okay, I would never be tempted to lecture a room full of 1,000 people at Caltech about physics. I'm not a physicist. You're not a physicist. And basically every sentence demonstrates that you speak on the subject. Please don't take this as ad hominem. I mean, I'm talking about specifically what you said. But what you do, and what many people who try to invoke spooky physics do in the service of propping up their religious and New Age intuitions, is that they think that because what you're saying, because quantum mechanics is spooky and difficult to understand, and because what you're saying is spooky and difficult to understand, they must somehow be related, or they must somehow be mutually supportive. And that's just fundamentally not true. They are arrived at by completely different methodologies and ways of thinking and criteria of discursive evidence. What a mystic, I've studied with great mystics. I've met great meditation masters who've spent 20 years in caves perfecting the kinds of techniques of meditation that you would adopt or recommend. They don't know a damn thing about physics. And they're not interested, for the most part, in physics. I mean, there's nothing about sitting in a cave and granted, having incredibly useful and even normative experiences and transforming your way of life and transforming your moment-to-moment perception of the world. There's nothing about that project that makes you a theoretical physicist. And so these are completely different language games. They're completely, and you have just merge them together in a very unprincipled way, and you're getting away with it.
No, I take resentment at your questioning my scientific credentials. In fact, if anyone on this stage is more scientifically credentialed, it's me. I took physics, chemistry, biology. I'm an MD. I'm a neuroendocrinologist. And I want to object to your saying that brain does not obey non-locality. You know, when you're thinking right now, 100 trillion neurons are phase locking and frequency locking simultaneously. Is that non-locality or not?
Okay, can I just stop for 1 second? Because Jean has a look on her face like she has something she wants to say, and I want to hear it.
Since we have so many human beings, I think, in the audience, I'd like to just address the human question of this. And also, since you mentioned mystics, and I'm very gratified that you've spent so much time studying mysticism. And mysticism is not something that begins in mist and ends in schisms. It's better than that. When you really look at what some of the mystics themselves, and I mean the old ones, have said about just this issue, the brain, mind, body question, you can really do no better than Francis of Assisi, who said words to the effect that what we're looking for is who is looking. And that seems to address who is it that is the looking. And then 100 years later, you have Meister Eckhart, who said, the eye by which I see God is the same eye by which God sees me. So already they were caught up in that fascinating conundrum. I personally believe that the selfing game is something that infinity does for fun, and that the paradox of being human, whether you talk about non-dual and singular, the paradox of being human is that we are finite and we are also the infinite. We are we inhabit the universe and the universe inhabits us. Part of my work is to take depth soundings of the human mind body and find out what is there beneath the sensory physical, the psychological, the mythic and symbolic, and ultimately that what appears to be, because I've made a lot of studies of very deep creative thinkers, what is at the source of this immense creativity. We cannot say that the brain secretes thought the way the liver secretes bile, the way David Hume says. Something else much more complex, far more interesting, and involving the ecology of the universe itself is part of this whole creative process.
Is what you're saying an assumption, an intuition, or is there any proof to support it?
Well, there's a lot of proof if you look at a lot of the work that's being done in the studies of human consciousness. I believe that, but that's a whole different...
I just want to quote from Einstein, "Science without religion is lame, religion without science is blind." From Stephen Hawking, "It would be very difficult to explain why the universe would have begun in just this way, except as the act of a God who intended to create beings like us."
But Hawking's an atheist.
Please
They're using
look up
This
those
is a direct quote.
So what? He has stated, Hawking has stated on this very stage, he does not believe in God.
Why, he doesn't believe in the dead white male that you're talking about, the straw man that you have put up, or the mythical God that Sam Harris is talking
The God
about.
you put up is a meaningless, non-local God. What
No,
does that even
I
mean?
just said, this is also the God that gives us inspiration, insight, creativity, free will, conscious choice making, imagination. Are your neurons doing that, or are you doing that?
As just a point of process here,
Well,
could you
then you're a
could you
zombie.
dial it down just a little bit? First of all, I invite everyone to look up that Einstein quote in Ideas and Opinions, read it in context. It'll be absolutely obvious. It can't be pressed into the service that you just witnessed. Einstein complained about this treatment of his metaphorical use of the word God and the few things he said about religion. And you can look that up in Richard Dawkins' book. This is a game, and it's a game that is designed for export to people who don't know much science and don't know how science is done. And you missed the point I wasn't criticizing your scientific credentials. You're an endocrinologist. You're an MD. You're not a theoretical physicist. The way science is done is
I invite theoretical physicists in this audience to actually address these questions.
Okay, so a theoretical physicist will be comfortable talking with real confidence in a very narrow band of his expertise, and he will be exquisitely sensitive to the fact that when he's in a room like this... Or she, sorry. I'll just proceed with he just for simplicity's sake here. He will be exquisitely sensitive to the fact that whenever he opens his mouth in a room like this, he is guaranteed to be speaking in front of half a dozen people who know more on any given issue than he does.